Right, there we go. So apologies, mainly to, well, Sammy, who noticed. Thank you, Sammy. And anyone else who had joined, it didn't work. So it's fixed now. I will start again. But yeah, welcome to Sticky Notes. 15 minutes every 2 weeks where someone talks about a thing that is either a learning or just an interesting thing that they have found out. And today we are talking about navigation being my nemesis, and Laurie's smiling at me because what did I say before? Oh yeah, because I feel personally victimized by navigation, but I'm going to tell you all why. So yes, navigation to me is a bunch of different kind of signs. Tells people where to go, what they might expect, what information is available. And it's typically the thing that if you're coming to a website for the first time, you like scan that first, see the stuff that you can do here, and lots of other digital experience, whether it's a product or just a website where you're trying to get some information. But it's made up of a lot of different things, and then it's rolled up into this one thing that we refer to as navigation, which is meant to help people like a vast array of tasks and things that they might be trying to do within a website. So what we usually do when we're starting with navigation is looking at information architecture. Actually, what is the content that we have? What are the things that people are going to be coming here to try and find out or trying to achieve? How might we group things together so it makes sense, so it's matching people's mental model of what they understand to be true? And we'll start putting that together to try and get a sense of, okay, what are the groupings here? Where are we trying to get to? We think this is something that we might be able to understand. But that is not always the case, because sometimes we have no idea actually how people are thinking about the information. Quite a lot of the time we are going in to work with businesses in industries that we don't understand at all or yet, or just people that we've never actually spoken to, information about topics that we're just never really going to interact with. And that can then make it really hard to even get to the point where you understand the information, how that should be kind of structured to even get to the point of having a navigation system that someone can use. And one of the things that we then might do in those situations is do some early research. So we might do a card sort where we give people lots of different labels kind of content and ask them to group it together in a way that makes sense to them. Depending on what we're looking at, we might do some tree jack testing. Can people, just based on the name of a piece of content, get their way to where we think they should be? And this is the bit that I like doing, the bit that I do understand, because I can identify bits of content, can group them together, I can test it, I can iterate it, and I can go, hey, here's a thing that should work in theory. But the problem is that it's just theory, because you then have to layer on the actual design pattern and how someone is going to use that in practice, not just how they expect the information to be grouped. And this is the point at which navigation to me feels like it's starting to attack my nice ordered process of content. So I gathered a bunch of different examples of navigation, because I get to the point where I could come up with a structure, I know what the hierarchy is, and I can go, okay, maybe you should use that one. And Holly will attest to the fact that sometimes I'm just like, here you go. And it's a whole nother set of problems that you have to try and solve to make sure that it's actually presented in a way that allows people to achieve what they need to with the information. So for those in the room who maybe can't see, we've got Gmail. So lots of navigation systems, I would take that and I've got a sidebar. But then on this example, so I've got a sidebar with options, but then I've got a second sidebar with another set of options. And then I've got a bunch of options and places to go along the top as well. And no one really tells you based on the information which place you should put that stuff in. And there's a whole nother set of decisions that need making. And then There's another example, again, sidebar, but sidebar is like secondary information and settings. And we've got like horizontal kind of primary-ish items, but I'm not sure they actually are. They're kind of actions. And then again, you might have then actions dotted around. But the common thing in the kind of sidebar top bit that I'm going through here is that it frames a page typically. So that's where I get that part. But then which ones go where? Because you have places where your secondary items are maybe in like a sidebar, and your primary ones are at the top. You have ones where your actions might be at the side, and you might have some other navigation system. You then move into more traditional websites where you get the more mega menu style. So that's all horizontal. I'm hovering over something, and then my options are coming up, and I pick one. I might go somewhere else, and then on the page, I might have breadcrumbs and I might have secondary links, and all of that cascades out of what started off as a bundled up, this is a really nice piece of information architecture, for example, that I think might work. And the thing that I then struggle with is that's a whole another set of problems that aren't my expertise, really, is how to take the stuff that I know how to do and to apply that visually. And it's quite hard because all of you who know me, and for anyone who doesn't, I like to be good at things and I like to learn things. And to not really understand exactly when you would choose and for which case, what actual like kind of visual design pattern for navigation, I think it's actually really difficult. So props to Holly when I bring you a bunch of stuff and you somehow figure that stuff out. But there are a series of rules, and we can still test things out. We can iterate, we can test it with people. But the thing that I find is that you can do testing on the content, but you do have to then retest that and relearn once you actually put it into a visual, because they're very different things. You've increased your chance of success knowing that maybe your content is grouped well, people kind of understand it. But if you put it in a really poor navigation pattern that people don't understand, or with icons people don't understand, all of that then builds into an experience where no matter how much you did with the information, you might not actually deliver that to people because you put other barriers in place. And then my favorite, Pets at Home website, some of you may remember, but they've gone for the amazing 4 stacked horizontal navigation. So we've got like some secondary items, and then we've got a header and a search and a my account and a my basket. And then we've got actual product categories, and then we've got like banners and stuff. I put this in just because I don't think anyone should ever do that. It's a bit weird, that one. But anyway, my point is then, and I don't think my GIF is playing. It was a little dog that's running around a supermarket. But it, again, comes down to then a series of decisions that are made along the process. I think what I've come to is navigation isn't actually my nemesis. I just have to accept that there are elements of it that you can't always control. So getting and doing the right thing with the information that you've got, especially with navigation, test early and often. It becomes so much harder if you bring out the sprawling architecture, you do all this content stuff, you set up names, you even go to building it, and they're like, right, we'll do a usability test at the end. If you figure out that your basic kind of taxonomy and information architecture is wrong, that's just going to be a nightmare to change. So make sure that you test it early so that you don't get frustrated, as I have been in the past with navigation. And if you are responsible for organizing information architecture kind of content and making some decisions in how that should be working, make sure that you collaborate then really closely with your design counterparts to make sure that the aims and the goals that you've tried to build into architecture or a journey or the information being presented is correctly kind of applied visually in the best way that a designer can help you to solve that in a way that kind of maintains what you're trying to achieve a bit more strategically with how you've approached the work. So yeah, that is navigation, my nemesis. You can ask a question if you like. Anybody? No? Lovely.
I agree.
Thanks, Holly. All right, well, thank you, everyone.